welcome to C's Backstage. This is your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. I'm your host, Troy Peters, Chief Experience Officer here at C's Productions. I'm going to guide you through the world of live event production. Remember to subscribe to the podcast wherever you find your favorite podcasts, or go to cspro.com/backstage so you can also be in the know. This is our fifth and final podcast in one of our first foundation series that we're calling them, where we take a little bit more of a deep dive into the one aspect of production. We've covered audio, video, lighting, and staging, and all that's left is creative or content development. So let's begin. The typical approach is to have PowerPoint slides intercut with iMag, right? Thinking about your typical event. PowerPoint, iMag, maybe a walk-in video, some walk-on music, all these things. But unless you really kind of take a holistic approach to this, it might fall flat. You might leave your audience, okay, that was all right. But we want to leave our audiences like, wow, I can't wait to hear more, can't wait to come back next year, or can't wait to buy that product. So thinking about that a little differently, I've worn a lot of hats over my career, whether it's been a lighting designer, production manager, producer, director, building a company, building a couple of companies into what they've become, with C's, building us into a real, true national global leader in live event production, design, and implementation. And in every one of these roles, even as an owner, as somebody who works on the development side, I've been a storyteller from day one. As an entrepreneur, as a young kid, I was really good at marketing. I started my own snow clearing service when I was only 10 years old, and hired all the kids in the neighborhood, and I marketed it. I went door to door and pitched snow shoveling services from a bunch of 10-year-olds, and was really successful with that. So that was me telling a story in order to win that business. I told the story of how we were kids and we were doing this thing and we were trying to help out. This was while we were living in Alaska, so snow was a commodity. But again, just really thinking about storytelling when it comes to all of these technical elements that we end up putting into our show. So rather than our last 4 episodes where we talked about the who, what, why, when, and where of audio, video, lighting, and staging, this is going to focus on storyline. We're really trying to understand how the creative fits the story, or how the story fits the creative. I've talked a little bit about the importance of story throughout the series, but really this one is going to talk through the power of story when we make it all come together through the content we're putting on the screens, putting on speakers so we can hear it, and then the lighting and all of the things that come with that. So if we think about our favorite TV show or movie or play, they're all kind of built the same way, right? Those that lean too much on an amazing soundtrack or amazing special effects, but fall short with the story, lose your attention pretty quickly and end up losing their audience, losing box office revenue. And really, we want to make sure that our audience is invested. They want to come back. They want to spend money. So I was working in the film industry. We were so meticulous about detail in every shot. And it was really, it was an event, it was a play, we're just shooting it on a camera. This was our frame, right? What we're looking at here. So really, we would want every little piece in there perfectly, and then occasionally there'd be like, we can't fix that, or that can't be fixed, or we already shot it and that was was left in the shot, or maybe it was like a very, very small detail out of focus way in the background. Nobody's going to notice, and we would say, if they're paying attention to that, then we've lost them with the story and the movie's going to fail anyways. So let's make sure we're covering story, because you can have a story with horrible backgrounds. You think about movies I grew up with, Clerks, which is just a black and white, I think it was Super 8mm film that was shot by the directors, I'm drawing a blank, but it was not great technically, but the story was solid, and that really pulled it through and made it successful. So I also think about the paper coffee cup that has shown up in a lot of memes from Game of Thrones, where they're all sitting around a table having a conversation, and nobody on the crew, none of the actors notice that there's a paper cup, like a white, typical Starbucks or food delivery paper cup sitting on the table during the entire scene. But we're enraptured. We're stuck in that story. We're willing to just not notice that. Our minds can see past that because we want that story to come together. It's a brilliant meme now, and I love that people call it out, all the time when we're looking at that. But, it really comes back to that story and that 3-act play structure, which is the golden rule when it comes to storytelling, and was originally called out by Greek philosopher Aristotle, who outlined this concept as a fundamental tool when it comes to storytelling. Each act, the 3 acts, right, will have a clear progression with a turning point between them, creating a chain of cause and effect, right? We set up the hook and then we give the audience the payoff. So Aristotle called this pathos, logos, and ethos, and that's where we're going to spend our time. So pathos, or act 1, that is essentially building the path, building our stage, setting up a sense of place, appealing to the audience's emotions. Why are we there? What are we trying to do? We walk into that room. That's going to be that first effect when you walk into the ballroom and you see the staging, you see whatever content is playing on screen, you hear the music, and you can just with those elements make the audience feel at peace, maybe entice them to be like, well, what's going on here? Anger, sympathetic, whatever we want, amused, right? All these things really are those things that we're trying to set up when you come into that room. I think I've shared this on a couple of these videos, is that even if we're talking about, CFOs on stage talking about negative numbers, you're delivering that, okay, we're bringing people down a little bit, but you've got to bring them back. You got to inspire them and bring them back. I just Googled some examples, and one that really spoke to me quickly was the ASPCA, American Society of Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. If you remember the Sarah McLachlan song that would play, I Will Remember You, while they're showing all these sad images of animals that are up for adoption, right? So really persuading people, that really pulls at your heartstrings, that really brings an emotion out in you. So that's the same thing we're trying to do. And we can do that with being thoughtful about the video we're putting up on screen, the welcome or opening video, or maybe even the walk-in slides, right? Thinking about colors, which we've talked about in lighting and video, thinking about the sounds in the room, which we've talked about in the audio portion of this series. And really trying to evoke those emotions, set people up for what they're about to receive. So you build that along, and then when you've taken the stage and somebody's presenting slides, have that hook in there, have that like, what's going to happen moment, and really kind of build that up. And I mean, you can, as simple as, dun, 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 with the music, you can get that basic, but you can just think about that while you're trying to design that show. And then as we move into logos, as Aristotle called it, or act 2, this is some sort of call to action. This is a confrontation. This is the peril, the like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as an audience? How are we going to come together to make this problem, which we set up in act 1 when we set the scene, negative numbers. All right, Q1 was a bad quarter. Now, here's what Q2 looks like. Here's where we're going to come out of this. Here's where we're going to build up. That's where you're putting your logic in. That's where you're really appealing to the audience sense of reason. So the ways to do that is more, maybe it's quickly showing some numbers, but doing it in a grandiose way, right? Like, I love, I think I shared this on the video podcast, where we had a presenter that actually used the entire LED screen rather than just having a pip with a window and their financial numbers going up on a bar graph. He walked along as the bar graph built next to him and got bigger and bigger and bigger over a 60-foot surface. And that was just this great delivery as they were climbing a mountain, or even climbing a mountain. We had one group that actually used the mountain climbing idea as their story. It was one of the greatest stories for a meeting that I'd ever seen. It was, you got there, you collected badges to show that you've accomplished certain feats of going up this mountain. You've camped for the night. They coincided that with fireside chats, which just fell perfectly into that theme. And then they got ready for the climb. They mapped out where they were going to go. They were looking at the 3 different routes they could take to get there, which in business, which is what they were sharing, which was how are we going to get there? Are we going to go there the fastest way? Are we going to go the slowest and safest way? Or are we going to pull it like Goldilocks and go at that sort of little bit of both, nice and comfortable, and right up the middle, and achieve our goals, right? Being able to bring everybody back to the goal. We use facts, statistics, clear connections between ideas all throughout Act 2. We build up the relationships and the investment we have as an audience with our people on stage, putting a panel in, right? This is where you want your experts to appear. You might open it up with one person as the keynote speaker that then goes, you move everybody into that next portion, and it's a panel of experts talking about whatever that keynote speaker, your CEO or CFO set up for them in that Act 1 portion. And Act 2 really brings it together, puts all the information there that you need in order for you as an audience member to try and interpret and figure out your own decision. Great murder mysteries like Agatha Christie or M. Night Shyamalan who have really made Act 2 be this thing where we think we've figured it out, right? We think as an audience, we know where we're going. We know where this train is headed. You think about some of our association clients where we're talking about heart disease or something. It'll be statistics of what heart disease and the prevalence of its existence in the world, or cancer, same thing, right? How those numbers can sometimes be overwhelming and heavy, and really you're just like, give me that sign, give me that light at the end of the tunnel. So that's Act 2, right? And pulling that together, and you can do those things with your audiovisual team to really emphasize those things, right? When you're building the content on screen, right? Having action words. We had a period there where we had those word clouds, and different words would grow and expand and move across the screen, and that was kind of a hot thing in the early 2000s. But having something like that when you're delivering a topic, right? Talking about flooding in New Orleans, having the words New Orleans come up and a picture of the flood in the background, right? Just those sorts of things that really emphasize the story, what's being delivered from your speaker on stage. So really just trying to bring that all together, trying to outline everything, what journey we're on, what kind of story it is we're telling, and then hook them right at the end, right? Okay, this almost maybe what I mean. We do these huge medical conferences where is there a light at the end of the tunnel? What's going to happen? You're on the edge of your seat. You're waiting to find out. We're doing a product launch, and it's like, we worked on this. We worked with these athletes. We were building this shoe. We've been working on this for 2 years. We've put it all together. We've put up diagrams of what the new shoe is going to look like. We've had a fun little teaser commercial, but we haven't seen the actual finished product yet. But you're going to. And that brings us into Act 3, or ethos, right? This is the win. This is the resolution and the reward for listening to the story, right? This is the sound of the bear outside the tent wasn't actually a bear. It was a branch rustling against your tent, right? Those spooky stories that we tell around the campfire, or at least I tell to my kids. But really, it's appealing to the speaker's authority or credibility. They completely buy into it because you've teased it in Act 1, you've given them the facts in Act 2, and in Act 3, boom, here we go. And in Act 3, when you go to audio, video, and lighting, make a movement with your lighting, make the room change, make the look different, make that payoff be that General Lee doing a jump over the gorge in Dukes of Hazzard or whatever it is, right? Everything changes when you're watching a movie. It seems lighter and brighter. The spaceship blows up, the Death Star blows up in Star Wars, and we cut to everybody excited, and the reception back on Bespin, where they're I'm really nerding out here, is where they're getting their rewards, right? They get their emblems, they get their rewards. They all stand up on stage, everybody's applauding, cut to credits. You can't wait for the sequel. Brilliantly set up. It's making the audience more likely to trust the speaker or trust the storyteller because you've delivered what you promised, what you were teasing through those first 2 acts. A great example, I think, is from, again, a medical product that might highlight highlight that it's backed by medical professionals, right? 9 out of 10 dentists say this is the product for me. That is the, okay, all right, we've got the story, we know the need, we've got the information to know why this is the right decision, and we have the people that are backing us up to deliver this decision. So really bringing that all together, and again, hitting them with good music, hitting them with good lighting, hitting them with a finishing video. Maybe the lights come up, the shoe shows up, maybe it rises out of the stage, maybe it drops from the ceiling, whatever that looks like, but really delivering on that third act, that reward that they've invested in you to receive. So really, again, working with your AV team, with your production partner, with your producers, with your project managers, with your show callers, all of the team to understand audio, video, lighting, and staging, and then bringing it all together with the creative or the content that needs to go up on that stage. And I say stage a lot. I talk about the ballroom because that's where a lot of the effort's put, but it's everywhere. It's digital signage outside. It's the welcome signage when you land at the airport. It's the app that you're using. It's the people that they're engaging with at the hotel, or the people at registration, or whatever those things are. You are in charge of that journey, and work with your AV team to make that journey, make that story really come together so that your next event can also be a summer blockbuster. I hope this was a good series. I enjoyed putting it on, and I love the people that have already reached out to say this is one of the greatest series they've seen, or a series of podcasts, and that they're hooked. So we'll come up with another series, maybe down the road, maybe a little bit more technical. This was a little bit more high level, a little bit more holistic for a view for producing an event with your AV partner. But again, we've loved doing these, and we love the reception we're getting for all of this, and hope you guys have been learning things. Again, this has been C's Backstage, your all-access pass to everything you need to know to design, produce, and inspire your next event. Remember to set those reminders. We release these on the first and third Thursday of every month, and you can subscribe to your podcast at wherever you like your favorite podcasts, or just go to cspro.com/backstage and stay in the know. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time.